This is Edge of the Box, a podcast brought to you by WhoScored.com. Everyone was obviously saddened to learn of the passing of footballing legend Diego Maradona at 60 years of age. Jonathan, someone you know a lot about and like to talk about. Just what are your memories of this footballing god?
I mean, how do you even begin to sum him up? I think the thing with Maradona that people have to understand, and maybe to people who aren't that familiar with Argentina, this is something that's harder to get across. But in his career, he only actually won 3 league titles. He 2 domestic cups, UEFA Cup and the World Cup, the big one, which for some of his talent doesn't seem like that much. But he represented way more for Argentina. So Argentinian football has a very distinct self-identity. When the sort of the British sort of quasi-imperial, quasi-colonial control of Argentina ends sort of in the first decade or two of the 20th century, Argentina is in this position where it's this immigrant nation. The indigenous populations have essentially been wiped out in the late 19th century. And you've got this mass of very different people from Italy, from Spain. You've got Northern European Jews, you've got Arabs, you've got British, Irish, French, German. And this whole mass of people who've got very little in common. And so there's this nationwide discussion on what is it to be Argentinian. And one of the very few things they can agree on is they all want Argentina to win football matches. They all want this team in the blue and white striped shirt to win games. And so the way that team plays then becomes critical to self-identity. And so there's this ongoing discussion as to what that should be. So whereas the British game had been based on the playing fields of the big British schools, and the game being about running and about power, the Argentinian game is about close control, it's about technique, and it's about streetwiseness. It's about looking after yourself in these mass games in small spaces where you don't have a teacher blowing the whistle when things get out of hand, where you've got to look after yourself. And Boacotto, the editor of El Gráfico, the great football magazine, he wrote a very famous piece in 1928 when he said, if we were to erect a statue to the spirit of Argentinian football, it would be a pibe, an urchin, a kid from the street, with holes in his shirt, his teeth worn down by yesterday's bread. And you read this description, and it talks of the mischievous glint in his eye, and his legs ready for the dribble. And if you gave somebody that description and didn't tell them who it was, didn't give them any context, said, who's that? 100% of people would say, that's Maradona. And this is 50 years, or 49 years, before he makes his international debut. So when he arrives, and when age 16, he starts playing in the league, and he's brilliant, and he makes his international debut, even before the World Cup in 78, which he ended up not being selected for. And then he leads them to the Under-20 World Cup in 1979. It's as if this is a messiah whose coming has been foretold. And then he fulfills that prophecy by winning the World Cup in 86. So that's why he has this hold on Argentina. He is an embodiment of the spirit of Argentina. And that's why his body is lying in state in the Casa Rosada, the presidential palace or the governmental palace in Buenos Aires today. It's why people queued overnight until 6 a.m. Argentinian time when they've opened the gates to let people parade past the body. This is a city that's been under very strict lockdown for COVID. There's people who haven't gone to their own relatives' funerals, and they're out on the street for Maradona now. So that's why he's so important to Argentina. And then he's a brilliant player with his turbulent life story, with all the fallibility. He has this transcendence. He shows that from the incredible darkness of his personal life can come these moments of beauty. And his genius somehow, being so obviously hard wrought, being such a struggle for him, is, I think, somehow more relatable than the relentless excellence of a Messi.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about comparisons to Messi because, I mean, this is rare nowadays, but I'm actually too young to have seen Maradona play properly. I vaguely remember him in the World Cups as a kid, but I never really watched him play. What are the comparisons between him and Messi, or are they're one of a kind each?
Well, I mean, they're both brilliant technical players. I think there are actually quite a lot of comparisons. So they both have a low centre of gravity. They were both very small as children, had to have supplements to build them up. They both have great balance. They're both great dribblers. They're both, I think, both have a profound understanding of the game. So their selection of when to dribble, when to pass, which pass to play, what sort of finish to apply. I think both of them are supremely good at that. I think Maradona maybe had a great tactical intelligence. If you look at how he elevated teams like Napoli, like a not especially brilliant Argentina, I don't think we've really seen Messi ever do that with a team. but then the circumstances are so different, it's not really a fair comparison. So, in one sense, Messi is streets ahead because his brilliance has been consistent for 14 years now. Certainly 12 of those 14 years, he's been absolutely sensationally brilliant. Maradona, his entire career, maybe had 4 or 5 great seasons. But in a sense, greatness doesn't just lie in the accumulation of trophies or the accumulation of huge numbers of goals. Or that's one kind of greatness. But there's another kind of greatness, and it's a dangerous greatness, where there's this extraordinary story, the extraordinary narrative to it. And of course, that means terrible suffering. And it's not a good thing. But Maradona is greater in a narrative sense because it was such a struggle, because the lows are so low. And because we know all the story about the drugs, about the Camorra, about his personal demons, about the way he struggled to deal with fame and celebrity. The comparisons are they're there, but they're also very different. I think to try and choose one as better than the other, you're actually choosing on a range of characteristics rather than on things within those characteristics.